Hi, I'm Mrs. Nesbitt. I'm going to be going over the reading lessons for week 6, Benchmark Unit 9, Spending Time and Money. The essential question of this unit is, what do our economic choices tell us about ourselves? Economics is a study of how people use money and resources. When we decide what to buy, or when we decide to save our money and not spend it, we're making economic choices. And those economic choices can tell us a lot about people. It can tell us what people want, what they need, and what they find important. Some of the vocabulary words that are important for the stories that you're going to be reading this week are in yellow. I've included the paragraph and page numbers and the definition. So you might want to take the time to maybe pause the video and go into your book, highlight these words, and write the definition in the margin so that as you're reading, you'll better understand the text. First word, economics, is found on page 4 in the introductory paragraph. It's a study of how people use money and resources. Raw materials are land or tools, or the time and talent needed to make products. So those are like the ingredients or the materials that go into making something. Goods, services, or products are the things that we buy or we pay for. Services are things that people do for us. Maybe like we have our oil changed in our car, or maybe we go to a restaurant and people serve our dinner to us. Those are services. A consumer is someone purchasing something. It's the same as a customer. Demand is the desire to purchase something and the ability to do so. Something that's in high demand would be something that a lot of people want. And sometimes it can make products hard to find, or it can make them more expensive to purchase. Local means from the community. Agriculture is farming and raising crops or livestock. And produce are fruits and vegetables. So you might want to take the time to write down these definitions in your book. This week's lessons, we are focusing on main idea and key details. In your lessons, you will be given the main idea, and you will need to find 3 key details from the reading in order to support that main idea. On Mondays and Tuesdays lessons, we are going to be reading the story Making Choices. Ben Franklin's 2 Cents is the story you'll read on Monday, and The Ants and the Grasshoppers you will read on Tuesday. The main idea for these 2 sections is that both Ben Franklin and Aesop advise that working hard and saving for the future makes good economic sense. Well, when I look at the story, Ben Franklin's 2 Cents, the first thing that pops out to me is the picture of the coins. And that's an actual photograph. So I can tell that that's probably going to be a nonfiction story. Then I see the ants and the grasshoppers. And I notice that the illustration is a picture, a drawing of 2 insects that are dressed up as people and are standing up like people. And there's also a moral. So I know that when a story has a moral and it has characters that are animals that act like people, it's usually a fable. So The Ants and the Grasshoppers is a fable that you're going to read on Tuesday. So as you're reading these 2 stories on Monday and Tuesday, I want you to think about what are the key details or key events that support the main idea. Okay, highlight those key events. In Ben Franklin's 2 Cents, he writes a lot of proverbs. So on our next slide, we're going to talk about proverbs. Proverbs it's a form of figurative language. It's a short, popular saying that expresses a useful thought or a commonplace truth. So if we read a proverb, oftentimes it doesn't make sense because we're reading its literal meaning. What do the words literally mean? Sometimes we have to take our time to interpret what the non-literal meaning means. What does he actually mean by those words that he's saying? So let's look at one of his proverbs that he wrote. If a man empties his purse into his head, no one can take it away from him. If I look at the literal meaning of those words, it would be kind of confusing because you'd think dumping coins into your head, that the coins would go directly into your brain and then people couldn't take the money away from you. Well, that doesn't make sense. That can't happen. So if I look at the non-literal meaning, what does he really mean by that? Well, what he really means by that is when you spend money on your education, then it's something that never goes away. If you spend money on getting your education or learning a trade, all that information, all that knowledge goes up into your brain, and no one can take it away from you. When you spend money, money goes away. But if you spend money on your education, all that information and knowledge goes in here, and you can use it over and over again, and no one can take it away from you. So as you're reading the story from Monday, I want you to take the time to read those Proverbs and think about what the non-literal meaning of those Proverbs are. For Wednesday's lesson, we're going to read the story, Let It Grow, the Booming Business of Farmers Markets. And the main idea of these 2 pages is, in the last 10 years, the number of towns and cities that have farmers markets have doubled. Why have farmers markets become so popular? So in our unit on communities, we talked a little bit about farmers markets. And remember, farmers markets are like an outdoor market where farmers come to sell their produce, their fruits and vegetables, and the products that they make. Okay, so I can tell from this story, seeing the pictures, our photographs, and seeing captions under the photographs, I can tell that this is going to be nonfiction. So as I'm reading, I want to look for those key details. And on these 2 pages, you need to find at least 3 key details that support the main idea of why are farmers markets becoming such a big hit? Why are these so popular? For Thursday's lesson, you're going to read the rest of the story. And on these pages, the main idea is that the farmer at the farmer's market, his job is to be a good salesperson, and a good salesperson gets to know their customers. Why is it important for a farmer to get to know his customers? Why does he need to know them? Why do they choose to buy from this particular farmer rather than another farmer? So I want you to think about those things as you're reading these 2 pages for Thursday's lesson. And again, you are to find 3 key details, highlight them, and write them on your sheet. So now we're going to look at an example assignment. This is not your assignment, but I'm going to do an example with you. So your sheet looks similar to this. At the top of the page, you have your directions. It tells you what story you're going to read, the pages that you're going to find the story on, and it reminds you to annotate the story for main idea and key details. In the first gray box at the top, it gives you the main idea. So this time you don't have to find the main idea. It gives you the main idea. In this case, for our example, our main idea is forces cause movement, which is any change in the position of an object. So as we're reading our story, we're going to look for those 3 key details that support that forces cause movement. And at the bottom of your page, you have a question, and they ask you to use race strategies in answering the question. Okay, so now for our example, we're going to look at a story from our last unit on force, and we're going to look for the key details that support the main idea. Again, on your lesson, we give you the main idea, and you just have to find the supporting details that support that main idea. So for this story that I'm using for our example, our main idea is forces cause movement, which is any change in the position of an object. So I'm going to pick up my highlighter, and I'm going to highlight for the main idea and key details. Okay, usually I can find my main idea in our title or in our introductory paragraph. What makes things move? Well, I know that I'm going to be reading about what causes things to move. So I think I'll use a green highlighter to highlight my main idea so that you can see the difference. So let's read and see if we can find our main idea in our introductory paragraph. What is motion? Motion or movement is any change in the position of an object. What causes movement? Force causes movement. So my main idea is that force causes movement, and movement is any change in the position of an object. So as I'm reading, I'm going to look for key details that are about forces causing movement. Let's read paragraph 2. All objects on Earth have forces acting on them at all times. A force can be a push or a pull. Each force has both strength and direction. Gravity is a strong force. Gravity pulls objects down towards Earth's surface. At the same time, the ground also pushes up against objects. When an object is at rest, it stays in place. The forces acting upon the object are balanced. When the forces acting on an object are unbalanced, it will move. So, I see that gravity is a strong force and gravity pulls objects down to Earth's surface. So that's a force that's causing movement. So that is a key detail that supports my main idea. Let's read on to find more key details. If a ball is resting on the ground, then the forces acting upon it are balanced. If someone kicks the ball, then it will move. The kick is a force pushing on the ball. The ball will move in the direction of the kick. A strong kick will push the ball, making it move quickly. A gentle kick will still push the ball. However, the ball may not move as fast or travel as far. So we learned in this paragraph that if a ball is resting on the ground, then it has forces that are keeping it in one spot, keeping it balanced. But if someone kicks the ball, the kick is a force that moves the ball in the direction that it's being kicked. So there's another key detail. I can put those two separate sentences together and rewrite them in my own words to make one detail out of them. So let's read the fourth paragraph. The speed of a moving object is measured by how far it moves each second. The speed of the moving ball depends on the strength of the kick. It also depends on the other forces acting on the ball. As a ball rolls along on the ground, it rubs on the ground. Friction is a force that will slow the ball down as it moves. If the ball is kicked up into the air, then gravity will pull the ball back down to the ground. A gust of wind can change the direction of a ball. How fast will the ball move? Where will it go? The answer depends on the speed and direction of the forces acting upon it. So we learned in this paragraph that friction is a force that will slow the ball down as it moves. So as a ball moves along the ground, the ball rubs on the ground, causing friction, which slows it down. Also, if the ball should be kicked up into the air, the gravity will pull it back down to the ground. So both of those things affect the speed in which something travels. So now I have my three key details. I am going to now write them down right here next to 1, 2, and 3 on my key details. But when I write them, I'm not going to copy them word for word. I'm going to make sure that I change them into my own words. I'm going to take what I've learned and I'm going to kind of think about it and put it in my own words. What does it mean to me? So number 1, I said gravity is a strong force that pulls objects down towards the Earth's surface. Number 2, when a ball is still, the forces are keeping it in one spot. When someone kicks the ball, the force moves the ball in the direction that you kick it. And third, the speed of the moving ball depends on the forces acting on it. And friction is a force that causes the ball to slow down because it's rubbing on the grass. If the ball were kicked in the air, the gravity would bring it back down. So those were my key details I've put in my own words. Now we are going to answer a question using race strategies. So let's look at those race strategies. RACE stands for restate the question, answer the question, cite the evidence, and explain. In 3rd grade, we don't do the E, explain. You'll do that in 4th grade. So we're going to start out by restating our question. So remember, when we restate the question, we have to use our own words from the question to begin the question. Then the question word, who, what, why, when, or where, or how is what we fill in when we write the answer. So for some of the examples on your anchor chart, and you have these anchor charts in your packets, and they're also online to refer to them. So some of the examples that they give us is, what is the theme of the story? And in bold print, those are the words that are being borrowed and put as a statement to start our question. So what is the theme of the story? The theme of the story is, and that's when we explain the what. Why was Michael motivated to get a good grade? Michael was motivated to get a good grade because, and then we explain our why. Where did Miguel misplace his house keys? Miguel misplaced his house keys at, and then we tell our where. So we're using those how, when, why, where questions. That's what we're answering at the end. So remember to borrow words from your question to rewrite it as a statement. So let's look at our question. If a ball rolls on the sidewalk and then onto the grass, will it continue to roll as fast? Why or why not? So our question is, if a ball rolls on the sidewalk and then onto the grass, will it? I'm going to borrow that for my question, but I'm going to change this will it. I'm going to switch that around because I think it sounds better. If a ball rolls on the sidewalk and then onto the grass, it will. And then I'm going to explain my answer. So let's look at answering the question. So when we answer a question, make sure that you understand the question completely. Sometimes we have to reread the question a couple of times to make sure that we understand it. Underline any keywords in the question and make sure that you answer all parts of the question. Use vocabulary words from the text in your answer and make sure that you use specific names of characters or names of objects before you use the pronoun form. So, for example, if the question was, what is Mrs. Nesbitt's favorite color? You would need to say, Mrs. Nesbitt's favorite color is red. Okay. Instead of saying her favorite color is red. When someone picks up your questions, when you answer them and they read your answer, they should be able to tell what the question is from your answer. So you need to make sure that you always use characters' names or object names before using the pronoun like he, she, they, them, it. Okay. So let's look at our question again. If a ball rolls on the sidewalk and then onto the grass, will it continue to roll as fast? Why or why not? Remember, we need to answer all parts of our question. So the first thing that it asks is, will it continue to roll as fast? That's the first part that it's asking. Then it asks, why or why not? That's the second part of our answer. So let's look at how we've answered. If a ball rolls on the sidewalk and then onto the grass, it will not continue to roll as fast. That's my answer to my first part. Now I have to tell my why. Because the grass will cause friction, slowing down the ball. That's our second part of our question. So I answered both parts of my question, but answering the question is not enough. You must also cite your evidence. Okay. Citing your evidence means that you have to go back into the text and you have to be a detective. You have to look for that information that helped you solve your problem and answer the problem. Go in, underline, annotate the text, find that information. So on this anchor chart, it gives you some examples of some sentence starters that you can use when you're citing your evidence. And they're right here for you to refer to. Okay, so let's look at our answer now once we've cited our evidence. If a ball rolls on the sidewalk and then onto the grass, it will not continue to roll as fast because the grass will cause friction, slowing down the ball. According to the text, as the ball rolls along, it rubs on the ground, causing friction, which is a force that causes the ball to slow down. So I've cited my evidence, and now I've completed my answer. So I'm going to go to my passage, and this is where on our sheet, we answer our question right here. And that's all you have to do for this week's lessons. I hope this video helped you to understand better what you're supposed to do for your activities this week. And if you need any additional help, make sure to reach out to your teachers. They're there to help you. Until next time, bye-bye.